是吗？这2毫升的一个 A8蓝格，小七里边17点多。
我的天，水都这么多，瞳孔反射都没有了，这都散大了，老散了都。
As doctors are on the front line of the battle against disease, they're witnesses to life and death situations all the time. It's a job that requires tenacity, calm, courage, and a high level of skill. Medical imagers allow doctors today to conduct detailed examinations and perform intricate operations with minimal damage. This and their training allow them to save patients on the brink of death. Today, countless patients enjoy the benefits of modern medical technology. Over 100 years ago, basic medical practices such as disinfection, hemostasis, and anesthesia finally enabled the lancet to be used in body cavities. But the human race still had a long way to go before they could perform safe and effective surgery. How did the surgical science of incision and stitching develop? It was thanks in large part to a great discovery that marked the birth of modern physics. The ancient town of Würzburg in Germany was established in the 15th century. The bridge over the main river connects the east and west of the town, and it's become a popular place for local residents to take walks. The famous University of Würzburg is located on the bank of the main river. This old room used to be the university's physics lab. Today, it's kept exactly as it was 100 years ago.
Dieses wunderschöne Buch mit sehr exakten Tierfotografien. Hier haben wir das Bild einer Eidechse und natürlich wurde auch damals eine Frauenhand geröntgt in Wien.
In this lab in 1895, physician Wilhelm Röntgen made an accidental discovery that changed the world.
Am Abend des 8. November 1895 führte Wilhelm Konrad Röntgen wieder Versuche an einer Gasentladungsröhre, einer Hittorfschen Röhre, durch. Zugleich bemerkte er aber, dass auch weiter entfernt davon hier in diesem kleinen Glaskolben auch fluoreszierende Kristalle auf einmal leuchteten. Um zu überprüfen, warum das geschehen ist.
To find out the reason, Röntgen blocked the tube first with black cardboard, then a book, and then a lead weight. He found that the crystal continued to glow. Röntgen realized that the experiment might have produced a new type of ray that could penetrate most solids. He named it the X-ray, as X represented the unknown.
Absolut begeistert von seiner neuen Entdeckung, und er hat ja sehr gründlich verschiedene Substanzen untersucht. Zuerst Holz, dann Gewichte, dann hat er sein Gewehr geröntgt. Er war ja ein begeisterter Jäger. Und dann hat er sich entschlossen, die Hand seiner Frau Bertha zu röntgen. Und das war das allererste Röntgenbild überhaupt, das es auf der Welt gegeben hat. Innerhalb von wenigen Stunden sozusagen ging diese Meldung rund um die Welt, auch damals noch ohne Computer.
This ray that could penetrate all living things became a source of entertainment. People began to use it for all kinds of things. Young women soon saw it as something fashionable when innovative X-ray machines for trying out shoes became a common sight in some shoe stores. As well as being popular among ordinary people, The new discovery also caused a sensation in the medical field.
这种射线如果打在一个特殊的材料表面的时候，它可以形成图像。那么这么意思就是说，当这个射线穿过我们人体的时候，就把人体的表面、皮肤、皮下脂肪、肌肉、骨头、内脏全部显示出来了。它就可以使得我们无损伤的获取病人内在的病变的情况。 不需要把肚子剖开来才看它的胃是好的还是坏的，我们在事先就可以知道了，这是一个非常大的贡献。
However, researchers were unaware of the disaster that was quietly approaching. When people were overexposed to this ray, their cell tissues would become seriously damaged due to ionizing radiation, resulting in fatal damage to the human body. In the gardens of St. George Hospital in Hamburg, Germany, there's a memorial built in 1936.
Wir stehen jetzt hier vor dem Ehrenmal der Opfer der Anwendungen von Röntgenstrahlen. Auf der Vorderseite sehen Sie, dass es den Radiologen, aber nicht nur den Ärzten, sondern auch Wissenschaftlern aus anderen Bereichen, Physikern, Chemikern, Technikern, Laboranten und auch den Krankenschwestern gewidmet ist, die Opfer der Anwendungen von Röntgenstrahlen geworden ist.
315 names are inscribed on the tablet. They were all the best doctors and scientists of the early 20th century. Due to frequent and unprotected exposure of this kind of ray, almost all of the earliest X-ray researchers died of cancer. It was not until 1925 at the First International Congress of Radiology that scientists recommended setting up the International Commission of Radiation Protection, thus putting an end to this ongoing tragedy.
Mussten dann erst über Jahre lernen, dass sie auch Nebenwirkungen hat. Die Menschen, die ihr Leben gelassen haben bei der Entwicklung, haben sich aufgeopfert, um über die Jahre hinweg vielen Menschen das Leben leichter zu machen und das Leben zu verlängern. Weiterhin an das, was sie erlitten haben, arbeiten, dass wir unsere Patienten und unsere Mitarbeiter schützen, dass ihnen nicht auch so etwas widerfährt.
The X-ray had brought devastation to researchers, but it also initiated a medical revolution. With X-rays, more diseases could be accurately diagnosed before surgery, and treatments could be carried out more safely. However, for surgeons in the early 20th century, seeing lesions inside the body was far from enough. There were still many problems to overcome before patients could survive surgery. "27-year-old Xiao Yang is 36 weeks pregnant. Her elder daughter is very excited about the new baby.
是吧？千纸鹤，千纸鹤，
好不好看？
飞呀飞呀飞呀，
飞呀飞呀。
But the other family members are concerned. A crisis may occur at any time for this expectant mother who's been in hospital for 2 weeks.
前置胎盘你要早一点入院，对吧？那随时都有可能要出血。但是小孩都还不小，小孩可以。第一个孩子长3200克，这个小孩我觉得3000应该也有的，应该也有的，可以的，蛮好的。面胎儿的成熟是没有办法来改变的，对吧？也没有办法来改善的，只有靠宫内的准备了。
The medical term for Xiao Yang's condition is dangerous placenta previa, and it's one of the most severe conditions found in obstetrics.
之前知道自己是前置胎盘，他们说有可能就是无痛性的大出血，就是有可能睡着睡着就躺在血泊当中了。
The placenta has the greatest blood flow in the uterus. Unlike normal pregnant women, Xiao Yang's placenta is at the mouth of the cervix, blocking the baby's exit. A natural childbirth will inevitably tear the placenta and cause a fatal hemorrhage. To guarantee the safety of the mother and child, doctors have decided to perform a cesarean section.
我们有一些保守的办法，保守办法无效的时候，就考虑切子宫。
因为我这个情况就是大出血的风险是非常大的，是一定要出血的。
Normally, 30% blood loss will put a person's life at risk. Experienced obstetricians know very well that the biggest enemy in this operation is a massive hemorrhage. Today, the most common method surgeons use to deal with excessive blood loss during surgery is the blood transfusion. However, just over 120 years ago, this was absolutely unimaginable. Doctors back then did try to inject blood into the human body to save the dying, but it often led to severe consequences. Most of these patients mysteriously died after showing symptoms such as fever, pain, or dark-colored urine. The low success rate left the doctors confused. It was not until 1900 that the renowned Austrian physician and biologist Karl Landsteiner discovered the secret of human blood groups. This scene under a microscope with a magnification of 400 shows what happens when we mix two different blood groups. The invaded blood quickly produces a large number of Y-shaped antibodies that attack the entering blood. This reaction results in blood coagulation and eventually death. By conducting a similar experiment, Karl Landsteiner figured out the reason for why blood transfusions failed so often. He went on to establish a blood grouping system. Landsteiner's research made it safe to transfuse blood between two people.
我们才发现，这个血型分 I 型、B 型、IB 型、O 型才这么分型的。知道血型分型了以后，外科的技术就有进步了，因为你再不会出现输血反应了。其实血型呢，在这个我们外科技术来讲，是一个非常关键的里程碑式的一个标志。
Despite this discovery, blood transfusion technology did not become widespread straight away. In 1914, the outbreak of World War I and the use of new weapons caused unprecedented damage. At that time, people did not know how to preserve blood, so transfusions could only be carried out on a one-to-one basis, and this was impractical on the battlefield. As a result, many wounded soldiers did not receive transfusions in time and thus lost their lives. The brutality of this war facilitated scientific study. An exhibition on medical treatment in World War I is being held at the London Science Museum in Britain. One of the displays is a blood transfusion device used in the war.
You've got 3 tubes going into this bottle. One of them, and 2 needles. One of the needles is put into the donor, so blood comes out of the donor, goes into the tube with the preservative to keep it fresh. Then you take it to the patient, you put the other needle into them, and you pump away on that little pump there, and that forces the blood into the person who needs the blood.
After the outbreak of World War I, professional blood preservation equipment was developed, making it no longer necessary to collect blood on the battlefield. Researchers also added sodium citrate to blood to preserve it and prevent coagulation. The injured could finally receive timely and effective blood transfusions, giving them the greatest chance of survival. Today, of course, blood transfusions are used widely in hospitals, and they've become the most common first aid measure in the operating room. The blood vessels in Qiaoyang's placenta are stretched tight, and they could break at the slightest touch. Despite using every means available, the doctors are unable to prevent a massive hemorrhage. The blood continues to flow into Qiaoyang's body. Blood transfusions began 100 years ago, but surgeons today have mastered a clever new method to deal with more complicated situations: autologous blood transfusions. This machine filters and cleans Qiaoyang's lost blood before returning it to her body. Through doctors' skills and cutting-edge technology, countless mothers like Qiaoyang are given a new chance at life. The crisis is over, and Qiaoyang experiences the joy of holding her newborn baby in her arms.
这个外科的发展啊，绝对啊不是单单的一个外科技术的发展走到今天，是一个科学的综合的发展走到今天。外科手术只是医学里面的一个很小的部分，他对整个人体的情况呢有了更全面的认识和了解以后，变成一个整体，变成一个科学以后，这个手术呢才变得更好起来。
At the beginning of the 20th century, the efforts of many previous medical practitioners laid a solid foundation for the field. Breakthroughs in medical imaging and blood transfusions eventually enabled the lancet to enter the human body and treat diseases safely and effectively. As the field of medical science flourishes, it has attracted more and more young people eager to join the growing army of surgeons. Selecting and training talents within a limited time has become one of the most pressing tasks for the field. Dongdan is one of Beijing's most prosperous areas. Located at its heart is Peking Union Medical College Hospital. Established 100 years ago, it is the oldest hospital in China. Every morning, people from all over the country walk through its doors, and doctors start the day making the rounds of the wards.
您说的节点是
重要的点呢？重要的一个位置上面，它这个发生了什么
这就是
误导啊？
有囊性，定期复查囊性发现有实性的成分。
那为什么它那个会第一时间他们说低检了？
Zhang Mingxin is used to being sternly corrected by his supervisor.
为什么会出血呢？
它里面组织血管都比较鲜嫩。
什么叫嫩啊？
这个生长。
所谓的薄膜就是薄薄的一层。 2
years ago, Zhang Mingxin became a doctoral resident physician at Peking Union Medical College Hospital after 5 years of undergraduate studies and 3 years of master's studies.
查房呢，首先，因为我们是给病人治病，是一种形式。比如说，我是病人，我希望每天能见到大夫。那以什么形式见呢？早晨查房。当然，你是住院医生，大概不能见一次。 更多的见一见，随时见。所以我经常问那个病人，我说你是哪个医生管的？如果这个病人能说出来这个医生的名字，我心里面就踏实了。但这里面反映了一个深层次的问题：医生跟病人的交流是不是好？是不是在帮助病人？
你这次来的时候，他没过来看看你啊？
他出国了。
Zhang Mingxin has just begun monitoring Han Long, a 24-year-old patient who suffers from a systemic disease that causes multiple tumors throughout the body. This is a kind of tumor that frequently recurs all over the body. 2 years ago, doctors excised lesions in his brain and spinal cord. But recently, a new tumor has appeared in his adrenal gland. Mingxin will have the opportunity to be the first assistant for Han Long's upcoming tumor operation.
瘤子是保证一定要切干净。他还年轻呢，对，他还很年轻。4次大手术了，我们花了钱。咱们希望这是最后一次做手术了，好吧？别再长了。
For the past 2 years, Zhang Mingxin has engaged in basic medical work such as treating patients and recording cases under the guidance of senior doctors. When Peking Union Medical College Hospital was built, it became compulsory for all resident physicians to undergo a resident training program before becoming an attending doctor. The Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine in Baltimore, Maryland, is seen as a mecca by aspiring medical students all over the world. This school changed the history of medical education in the United States and was also the birthplace of the resident training program.
Overall, medicine, particularly in this country before Johns Hopkins medicine, medicine was not founded by and large on science or even accurate depictions of anatomy. Most of them did not have requirements of their students to have graduated, say, from a baccalaureate program.
In the late 19th century, with the end of the Civil War, American medical elites headed by William Osler decided to establish a medical school in the true sense of the term. Osler required all doctors at the school to systematically study medicine, pathology, and anatomy before practicing medicine independently. In addition, they also needed to receive 3 to 4 years of clinical training as full-time resident physicians.
The reason even they're called residents is because the trainees, we can call them trainees before we can call them residents, as they're training to take care of patients, they would live at Johns Hopkins Hospital. They do not make every decision that's necessary for that patient. Every decision will flow through that resident. So the resident will have supervision. Once they're engaged, then they will learn.
Every day, 1,500 outpatients receive treatment in these clinics. Know how it worked. under normal circumstances. That was his first subject in the physiology laboratory, learning how to check and measure the mechanism of a healthy man.
In the early 21st century, young doctors in the United States under the resident training program system continuously correct their errors and gradually gain experience before becoming qualified doctors. The system has influenced young doctors all over the world. In 1921, with support from the Rockefeller Foundation in the US, Peking Union Medical College Hospital was established. It was then that the resident training program began to develop in China, and it continues to this day. Zhang Mingxin carefully operates under the guidance of Director Li Hanzhong. As the tumor is located deep inside Hanlong's abdominal cavity, the biggest problem facing Zhang Mingxin is how to accurately separate and expose the tumor with the laparoscope with minimal damage.
所以呢，实际上很简单，进去挡住它，就是说你还没有形成那种外科的这种悟性，就上去，我知道要干什么。
Zhang Mingxin is a little hesitant as to how to approach the tumor.
是吧？啊，你平时没看你在那里天天看看手术，跟人家当个助手，直到当助手的时候，就已经有想象力了。就是说我当助手，我就想，哎，我动手的时候怎么做？
长刀烫一下。
来，把长刀给我，然后给你个吸引器。
好嘞。
啊。
中安。对。
After an hour, the surgical team completely excises the tumor. As the patient is still at high risk within 24 hours of the operation, Zhang Mingxin must closely monitor Hanlong's vital signs and various laboratory indexes.
他大约几点钟能转回来呢？
转过来的。
转回避吗？可能上午10点多。没劲儿，浑身没劲儿，头晕晕的，没劲儿是吧？肚子胀吗？有点胀，我知道。好。我有点发烧，然后心率快，然后血压低80几。 腹胀，然后有点头晕，
你这个说的还真有点那个意思，
有点头晕。周连。
These post-operation symptoms are rare. Zhang Mingxin assesses that Hanlong's abnormal symptoms are due to insufficient secretion of the adrenal hormone, as the bilateral tumors in his adrenal glands were removed during surgery. Zhang Mingxin takes immediate measures. He asks the nurse to supplement medicine for Hanlong as soon as possible. After an entire night, Hanlong has a breakthrough. Now in a deep sleep, he has no inkling of the huge test that he and Zhang Mingxin have just been through together. The resident training program helps young doctors improve very quickly. They learn to recognize and solve problems on their own. This experience determines what kind of clinical intuitions they will have, and decisions made by good intuitions often benefit patients for their entire lives.
他已经有自己独立思考、进行一个治病、做研究的能力了。
外科真正的决定作用的是那个决策，决策占75%，技巧占25%。多长时间一个外科大夫是可以成熟起来呢？回答的很有意思，10年。
Surgeon today, as did Bill Roth, intervenes in gastric cancer.
Modern surgery gradually became more standardized, marking the start of a new era of rapid development that believed in big cuts and highly skilled doctors. However, such major surgery meant more severe wounds and a longer and more difficult recovery period for patients. But at that moment, new changes were underway. One surgeon in Germany went against the trend and transformed surgery once again. Kiel, a harbour city in northern Germany. Lieslott Mettler has lived in this small town for 48 years. In 1970, Lieslott began working at a gynecological hospital in Kiel, and it was there that she began her deep friendship with her teacher, Kurt Sem, the then director of gynecology.
Kurt hat gerne zum Abendessen eingeladen, gemütlich mit Musik, klassischer Musik. Ein Glas Bier hat er sehr geliebt. Und als Bayer mögen die alle immer gerne Bier und ein gemütliches Abendessen, die Beine ausstrecken und zu überlegen, was kommt am nächsten Tag.
Lieslott and her family now live in a 3-story cottage not far from the hospital. The house used to belong to Kurt Sem. To Lieslott, Sem was someone who cared for his patients deeply. Even today, she gets emotional when she thinks about a special case of surgery she helped him with in 1980.
Und als wir dann die ersten Fälle Samstagnachmittags, und dann haben wir gedacht, das kann man also nur machen, einmal, wenn niemand in der Klinik ist, ohne irgendjemand zu stören, in Ruhe machten, gab es eine große Aufruhr in der Klinik. Und deshalb der Klinikdirektor musste sich verteidigen. Also es war eine Zeit der Aggression gegen Eingriffe, die nicht etabliert waren. Und dann haben wir es den Chirurgen erzählt, haben den Film gezeigt. Wir haben damals noch nicht Videos oder Films. Das kann doch nicht sein.
The operation was the result of Sem's imaginative genius, and it would revolutionize the field of abdominal surgery. In the 1960s, abdominal surgery was the only way to treat abdominal diseases. Even for a cyst as small as a soybean, the only way to remove it was to open a patient's abdomen. The sight of patients in pain made Sem think of the laparoscope, a common diagnostic tool used for abdominal examinations. By making a hole the size of a keyhole in the patient's abdomen and using the light source and mirror at the front end, the doctor could use this tool to get a clear view of the patient's abdominal cavity. Sem realized that if the laparoscope could be modified to perform surgery, patients would suffer fewer traumas during the operation.
Jetzt gehen wir in die Werkstatt von Kurt Sem. Die war also hier die Treppe runter. Und dann müssen wir hier um die Kurve.
This was where Sem modified the laparoscope. Lieslott has kept everything just as it was to honor her close friend.
Die Werkstatt, wie Kurt Sem sie verwendet hat. Da hat er die ganzen, so alle verschiedenen Greifzangen, wie so zum Beispiel hier diese Zange, wenn man hier ein Myom greift, kann man es feststellen und rausziehen. Und hier für die Hysterektomie hatten wir eine spezielle Interuterine Resection Tool, die man hier abschneiden kann. Also hier zum Beispiel eine Schere, die alle heute auch noch möglich sind, Hakenschere. Die hat er alle entwickelt, aber die Klinik hat jetzt neuere Instrumente gekauft.
Sem had a talent for mechanics. After repeated tests, these slender laparoscopes were modified into new surgical tools that could cut, grab, and burn. These unique tools also led to the creation of new surgical methods. When the laparoscope enters the body through tiny holes, it takes over from the doctor's hands. However, carrying out intricate movements such as hemostasis and knotting becomes extremely difficult.
Wenn man jetzt mit solchen Instrumenten arbeitet, können Sie ja nicht mehr händisch knoten. Sie müssen also über das Instrument knoten. Weil wenn was passiert, dann sind Sie ja nicht vor Ort. Also wenn ein Loch im Darm ist, wie verschließe ich das? Wenn es eine Komplikation gibt in Form einer Blutung, wie löse ich das?
Also wir beginnen den Röderknoten mit einem halben Schlag. Ups. Dann halten wir den Knoten fest und gehen einmal drüber, nochmal drüber. Man kann es nochmal drüber gehen und dann kommt man zwischen den beiden zurück. Hier. Und jetzt macht man schön fest und dann kann man mit dem Knotenschieber runterschieben.
The knot resembles a lasso and it's put into the patient's body using slender surgical instruments. When surgeons encircle the bleeding part and tie the lasso tight, they can stop the bleeding.
He was transforming laparoscopy from a diagnostic tool into actual surgery. But in the 1980s, Kotzem was under extreme pressure. Most colleagues, surgeons and anesthesiologists...
Using such modified surgical tools, Sam completed the first laparoscopic appendectomy in medical history. But to their surprise, Sam's invention drew a strong backlash.
Selbst in Deutschland war sie überhaupt nicht akzeptiert und unsere ersten Arbeiten wurden nicht angenommen zur Publikation, weil das eine medizinische Schande ist, so zu operieren. Kotzem wurde von den deutschen Chirurgen aus der Gesellschaft ausgeschlossen. Und man hat vorgeschlagen, dass er von der deutschen Gynäkologengesellschaft auch rausgeschmissen wird.
If you have a tradition, you like to stick to your tradition. And why should I change my tradition? Now, if you have a head of the department who is a very good surgeon in the open abdomen surgical acts, doing the job clean and thorough. When this person is put on an endoscope, he's lost because he's not able to do the same action as he's able to do at open abdomen.
Ja, genau. Ja. An der Nadel anfassen, ja.
Also nähen ist schon etwas schwieriger, ja, weil man fühlt ja nichts so direkt, wie man das jetzt machen würde.
Willst du mit links nähen oder mit rechts?
Despite coming under great pressure, Sam never thought of giving up. He invented a complete laparoscopic training system to help doctors learn surgical skills. With the increasing number of successful surgeries, the obstetrician and gynecologist, originally dismissed as a madman, were now hailed as the father of laparoscopic surgery.
Wäre stolz, zu Recht, weil er hat maßgeblich die Chirurgie verändert. Das heißt, Sie schaffen im Grunde genommen eine Erweiterung der realen Situation, deswegen Augmented Reality. Sie verschaffen sich Einblick in das Organ. Ich könnte das endlos weiterführen.
With the emergence of laparoscopic surgery, the concept of minimally invasive surgery has become widely accepted and recognized in the medical field. Today, more than 50% of operations can be completed through such techniques. Smaller wounds mean less pain and bleeding, as well as lower rates of infection. The combination of the latest photoelectric technology and modern surgery has led to great changes in minimally invasive surgery. The emergence of robot-assisted minimally invasive technology has led to one medical miracle after another. The University of Minnesota Medical Center in the US is home to the most famous cardiac surgery department in the world. Juan is 24 years old and suffers from severe congenital heart disease. His malformed heart is on the right side of his chest.
Sometimes, depending on what their preference is, you'll go straight to control.
A few months ago, Juan showed signs of heart failure again. He's come to the University of Minnesota Medical Center with his family for a pacemaker implant. He hopes that it will help his heart beat normally again.
Maybe a week ago.
Good. Good to see you. How's everything?
Good.
Okay, good. Nothing changed in the
Not
past
at all.
few days.
I feel fine.
Are you excited about surgery?
Yeah, kind of.
Kenneth Liao of the Thoracic and Cardiovascular Surgery Division is one of the first doctors to conduct robot-assisted cardiac operations in the USA. He's also the chief surgeon for Juan's upcoming surgery.
So he's very rare. This is the 3D model. Find the area that we're going to put the leads on, and I'm going to stay away the arteries that is on the surface of the heart. 这个病人以前做过多次心脏的手术，心律失常很严重，所以这个时候手术要特别的轻巧，对心脏的这个触动要特别轻。
Juan's extremely delicate heart means there can be no mistakes. The robot-assisted minimally invasive operation has become his last resort.
I'm not scared or nothing. I've never really been scared for any of my surgeries. Just more excited and ready to get it done more than anything. I mean, my family is always there. We're a team, so we stick together. And when one of us are down, we always help the other one.
Shut the hell up.
Kenneth Liao controls the mechanical arms in Juan's body through a console. The digitalized mechanical arms reduce hand tremors and ensure more flexible and accurate actions. The endoscope used in the operation has a magnification of more than 10, giving the chief surgeon high-definition 3D images of the patient's body cavity.
This is a bypass surgery. So there's a lot of veins and arteries being used. There may be a lot of scars. Too much contact. Too much. Get rid of some staining. Too much staining. Yeah. Score it out here. Okay, good. Let's do it again in the area.
Inside Juan's chest, two mechanical hands successfully place the pacemaker near his heart.
The two again.
The 360-degree rotating mechanical arms install the pacemaker in the cardiac muscle. Electrical stimulation from the pacemaker will enable Juan's weak heart to function normally.
So how are you feeling after surgery? Good. And tomorrow, if you feel fine, pain is not too bad, we can let you go home if you want. So nobody can see your scar. There's no scar is hidden behind. Okay.
You're still going to be able to wear a bikini.
1, 2, 3. Thanks for coming. Yeah, we're very proud of you. Very happy for you. You know, and going through surgery and so smooth.
3 days later, Juan leaves hospital. The operation has bought Juan enough time to wait for a heart transplant.
所以整个外科的发展，它是伴随着人类文明、社会经济和科学技术的发展是不断的演进的。在每一个时代，外科学都会因为有这些科技的进步，赋予它新的内涵，从而导致外科理念和范式的转变。
So I think surgery in the last 2 or 3 generations perhaps, has become again more humane. It started to think not only about treating bodies but about curing people. I think after all that's what medicine and surgery are about. They're about human flourishing, helping us to lead better lives. So I think in lots of ways surgery is returning to its ancient philosophical roots.
Over the past 200 years, from the discovery of the X-ray in the 19th century to robot-assisted minimally invasive surgery today, this field has undergone dramatic changes and its scope is constantly being expanded. But despite all these great changes, the nature of medicine remains the same. Hippocrates said, "First, do no harm, then try to prevent it." This is the principle of both medical treatment and surgery. The science of surgery continues to develop, along with human beings' deeper understanding of themselves. Hidden inside this beautiful universe are the deepest secrets of the human body. Man has been exploring it to get a clearer view of how it works since ancient times, opening the door to this forbidden zone and working accurately in this tiny space. Find out more in the next episode of 200 Years of Surgery.